Thanks to some vaccine enthusiasm from the 18 to 34-year-olds, Saturday saw the largest number of people receiving COVID-19 vaccine jabs on the weekend so far.
There were more than 68,000 COVID-19 vaccines administered. Sunday's figure was a bit lower at more than 27,000.
New cases do remain on the high side. More than 10,000 new cases reported in the last 24 hours. 174 people who've been diagnosed with the virus passed away in the same period.
The number of active cases is still high at more than 167,000.
Meanwhile, the Food and Drug Administration in the United States has now given the Pfizer BioNTech Covid-19 vaccine full approval. This means it's not just available under emergency authorization. The vaccine also now gets to be marketed under a brand name Comirnaty. The USA is the first country to make this decision. We're joined now by Dr. Mvuyisi Mzukwa, Vice Chair of the SA Medical Association. Dr. Mzukwa, good evening to you and thank you for your time. So, as I understand this, there was an emergency authorization by the Food and Drug Administration in the US to use this vaccine. Now it has full authorization. How significant is this move?
Good evening, Steve, and to your viewers. Thanks for having us in your program. This is a very significant step that has been taken by the FDA, because once we come to full registration then or authorization, it means now once more we run away from the doubts, that led to hesitancy, people not sure whether these are vaccines or what could be the issue about them. But now that there's a full authorization, nobody can now say no, it's emergency use and it's not fully registered. All the excuses that were put forward by some people. But also, Steve, we must remember that FDA is a US government agency. We've got our own SAPRA who must make the same pronouncement as FDA. We are not a province of the USA, so we need to hear from our own SAPRA on this matter.
So, I mean, do you expect SAPRA to follow the FDA's lead? I mean, of course, you're correct, we're not an American state, but regulators around the world do tend to an extent to follow each other. They look at the same medical evidence.
Yeah, yes, you're correct, Steve, but remember, we collect our own data. We've got our own unique context in South Africa. You remember we did a mistake in the past where we actually halted our vaccination because, FDA had taken a position. But we failed to analyze our own data in the country. I think we must always follow the same thing. We must be consistent. Even this time, our own SAPRA must follow their own processes and not copy and paste from the FDA.
So there would have been some which sort of questioned using the vaccine because the Pfizer vaccine, because it only had the emergency authorization. Now the FDA has granted it full authorization. I would imagine that strengthens the argument. It helps us convince people to get vaccinated using this vaccine. And I mean, again, if SAPRA follows, if they do, of course, that also helps us to convince people to take the vaccine.
Yes, we can. Actually, if SAPRA, authorizes it, then we can obviously use that to obviously talk to our own society in the country, our own people in the country to say, this is where we are with evidence, SAPRA gives us that evidence, and also, talk to the issues of the report that was issued out by SAPRA in terms of the deaths that were associated with the vaccine, to reassure the country that, there are side effects, but we have not seen deaths due to vaccines in the country, not outside of our country.
There's been so much research on these vaccines. Do you think we know enough about them now? I mean, are the right decisions being made, do you think?
No, I don't think we know enough, because remember, even with the old drugs or medication that we have, we still contribute, as clinicians in terms of side effects, if there are side effects that emerge, even if it was authorized in 1982, but if there's new evidence or new side effects that are emerging, then we need to report those, and they need to be enlisted among the side effects of that particular drug. So the same approach with this one. We'll have to do the same thing. There are so many that have not been identified in terms of side effects.
There's going to obviously be a lot of focus on what happens next. People are expecting, and we're seeing our government making efforts to get more and more people being vaccinated, more vaccinations on weekends, opening their vaccinations to basically all adults. Do you think we're going to go up again? Do you think things are going to start moving more quickly now?
Well, I think, first of all, we need to applaud government for opening up, vaccinations for the 18-year-olds and above to take vaccines. But it does not absolve government from, reaching out to the 60-year-olds and above who are hesitant or who has not taken the vaccine. So we still have to be creative in terms of getting hold of those who are running away from the vaccination, including men of this country. We need to have, obviously, creative ways of getting hold of those people to come on board. The important thing about vaccination is that we need to get hold of those who are vulnerable, who may be easily killed by the disease. So if we're getting numbers, it's not just about numbers, it's about protecting those that are high at risk.
Dr. Mvuyisi Mzukwa, Vice Chair of the SA Medical Association, do appreciate the time on the pulse tonight. Thanks very much indeed.